Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a really deep plunge into the life of Angela Burdett-Coutts. She's a truly fascinating figure from Victorian England.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine being born into immense wealth, then suddenly inheriting even more, becoming the richest woman in Europe.
It's almost unimaginable, isn't it?
Right. The question then becomes, what do you actually do with that kind of fortune? Our deep dive today will reveal how Angela Burdett-Coutts used hers to, well, shake up society,
Definitely. From the desperate slums of London.
to the ancient streets of Jerusalem, and even, the far reaches of the British Empire.
And we've gathered some incredible sources to guide us today. We'll be drawing from historical accounts, things like those from the Palestine Exploration Fund, Westminster Abbey archives, delving into her personal life, her huge philanthropic ventures, and the really complex motivations behind them.
In academic research, too.
Oh, yes. We have academic research, including a detailed look at her, let's say, controversial Urania Cottage project she did with Charles Dickens.
Dickens.
Interesting.
Plus some intriguing bits about her collection of Greek manuscripts, and even a peculiar stalker.
A stalker. Okay, you need to hear about that. Our mission here is to uncover the layers of Angela Burdett-Coutts' life. We want to show how she embodied that Victorian spirit of philanthropy,
Right.
but also revealed its inherent, complexities and contradictions. You're going to get some truly surprising facts, I think, and a fresh perspective on a woman, Queen Victoria herself, called the most remarkable woman in the kingdom.
I praise indeed.
Okay, let's dive in. So, Angela Georgina Burdett, born 1814 into the prestigious Coutts banking family. A solid start, you'd say.
A very solid start. But the real turning point, the moment everything changed, came when she was just 23.
And the inheritance story itself it's pretty unique, isn't it?
It really is. Her grandfather, Thomas Coutts, the banker, he married an actress, Harriet Mellon, after his first wife died.
Right.
And when Thomas passed, he left his entire fortune to Harriet. Not directly down the family line, as you might expect.
And Angela, she became Harriet's constant companion in her later years. So in 1837, when Harriet died, she chose Angela as her heir. She apparently thought Angela was the sharpest and most conscientious of her step-grandchildren.
Wow. But it wasn't just a simple handover of cash, was it? There were some pretty wild conditions attached.
Oh, absolutely. Big conditions. A 50% share held in trust. She had to take the name Coutts.
Okay.
And the real kicker, she must never marry a foreigner.
Never marry a foreigner. That's quite a restriction.
It really was. And those conditions, they weren't just, quirky details. They fundamentally shaped the path her life took with this immense wealth.
And we're talking serious wealth.
Huge. Estimated around 200 million in today's value. It instantly made her the richest heiress in England, maybe even Europe. It just set the stage for this incredible life of influence.
She certainly moved in interesting circles, became close friends with some major figures.
Oh, definitely. We're talking Charles Dickens, of course, this scientist Michael Faraday, Benjamin Disraeli, the Prime Minister. Yeah. Even Raja Brooke of Sarawak, the adventurer.
Quite the mix, but her relationship with the Duke of Wellington, that adds another layer, doesn't it?
It does. The Duke of Wellington, the hero of Waterloo.
The Iron Duke himself.
Exactly. He was over 40 years her senior, but he became a really significant advisor to her, especially with issues concerning Coutts Bank.
So a mentor figure.
Very much so. They are often seen together at social events, and it really highlights something crucial about Angela. Her ability to attract and, frankly, leverage these powerful, influential minds. She turned her personal network into a force for change.
And then didn't she?
Yes. In 1847, Angela actually proposed marriage to him.
She proposed to the Duke of Wellington at 60-something.
Well, he was much older. She was in her early 30s. He gently declined, told her not to waste herself on a man so much older.
Wow.
But they stayed very close friends right up until his death.
No. Thinking about her influences, her father, Sir Francis Burdett, he was an MP, quite a radical figure for his time, right? Advocating for reform, universal male suffrage.
Yes, he was definitely on the progressive side for the era. And those leanings, they certainly seem to have shaped her approach to philanthropy.
How so?
Well, she didn't just, write checks from afar, which was pretty common for the wealthy back then.
Right. Detached charity.
Exactly. She got personally involved. She visited the places she was funding. She met the people. This hands-on approach was, quite radical for a woman of her standing at that time. It turned philanthropy from just giving money into a kind of direct social action.
Any specific examples spring to mind?
Oh, plenty. She funded Charles Dickens' Ragged Schools. These were basically free schools for destitute children.
Okay.
She also actively supported relief efforts during the Crimean War and later the Russian-Turkish War, getting supplies, helping organize things.
And she was also deeply religious, wasn't she? That seems to have been a major driving force.
Immensely so. Huge endowments to the Church of England. She gave, I think it was £15,000 a fortune then, to the Bishop of London, just for building new churches.
15,000.
Wow. And she endowed bishoprics overseas, South Africa, Australia, British Columbia, spreading the church's influence across the empire.
She also set up education systems linked to churches in London.
Yes, elementary and technical education.
Yeah.
And some of those foundations, like the Burdett-Coutts and Townsend schools, they actually still exist today in some form.
Incredible legacy there.
And this profound religious devotion, it led her quite directly to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem.
Okay, how did that connection happen?
Well, Jerusalem in the mid-19th century was really struggling. Public health was poor, water supply was a massive issue, and there wasn't much help coming from the Ottoman government.
Right.
Then there were droughts in the 1850s, which spurred this strong British philanthropic response, particularly among the religious upper classes who were fascinated by the whole rediscovery of the Holy Land. People like Lord Shaftesbury, Lord Montefiore.
And Angela Burdett-Coutts joined that effort.
She did. She stepped in to promote a proper, detailed survey of Jerusalem.
What did that actually involve?
Well, using her connections, likely Shaftesbury, maybe Montefiore, she got government permission. And she provided the funding, over £500, which is...
You said like £63,000 today?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah.
A significant sum. Enough for the Royal Engineers to conduct a proper survey in 1864.
And what did the survey find?
It confirmed how bad the water supply was, very impure. But it also documented these incredible ancient water systems, aqueducts, cisterns just lying there in ruins.
So she saw a solution.
She did. She actually offered to fund the restoration of King Solomon's aqueducts.
Yeah.
A huge undertaking.
But they turned her down.
Yes, the offer was declined. It was seen as too expensive, maybe too technically difficult, perhaps politically disruptive at the time.
But her initial investment, the survey itself, that had a lasting impact, didn't it? Even without the aqueducts.
Oh, absolutely. It was foundational. The success of that 1864 survey directly led to the creation of Palestine Exploration Fund, the PEF.
Ah, the PEF. Still going today, is it?
It is. And it continued doing scientific and archaeological work across the region for decades. Charles Wilson, the Royal Engineer who led her survey, he became a founding member and the lead director of the PEF.
So her £500 really punched above its weight.
You could say that. It literally laid the groundwork for generations of exploration and understanding of the Holy Land. A remarkable return on investment, in a way.
Okay, so moving from that kind of broad religious philanthropy, we get to one of her most ambitious and maybe, as you said, most controversial projects, Urania Cottage.
Yes.
A venture she undertook with Charles Dickens, of all people.
Indeed. And the context here is really important to understand what they were trying to do, however flawed it might seem now.
Right.
So 1850s London, you've got this massive social issue, an estimated 8,000 prostitutes on the streets. A huge number.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, out in the colonies, places like British Columbia, there's this severe sex imbalance. Some reports said 1 woman for every 200 men.
1 to 200. Wow.
So it created this kind of dual problem in the minds of reformers like Coates and Dickens. How do you deal with the women in London, and how do you populate the colonies with, well, wives?
So Urania Cottage was conceived as a solution to both.
That seems to have been the idea. They planned to reclaim, as they put it, young women from London streets sometimes, the sources suggest, against their will and offer them a new life opportunity.
Which meant
sending them to the colonies, specifically with the aim of marriage. Now, on the surface, it sounds benevolent, maybe, but the sources paint a really complex and, frankly, quite troubling picture.
How so?
Well, while it was definitely framed as humanitarian, the charity also served a clear utilitarian purpose. It was about removing problematic subjects, as they were sometimes called, from London.
Cleaning up the streets.
And also solving the dearth of white women overseas, which was seen as essential for colonial stability and growth.
And Dickens was the main architect.
He seems to have been the driving force behind the practicalities. He designed Urania Cottage itself, in Shepherd's Bush, as a rescue home for women. His stated aim was to tame and civilize these so-called fallen women.
How? What did that involve?
It involved very strict rules, moral instruction, religious teaching, of course, but also intensive domestic training, washing, mending, cooking, essentially molding them into the ideal bourgeois wife and homemaker.
Right. Preparing them for colonial domesticity.
Exactly. Dickens even wrote this anonymous pamphlet inviting fallen women to come to the home. He promised a certainty of all those blessings, a new name and new character, if they agreed to emigrate.
Anonymous, you say?
Yes, he carefully avoided using the word prostitute. He tried to make it sound personal, signing it your friend. And the pamphlet explicitly tried to separate this emigration from, convict deportation, which everyone dreaded. This was framed as the path to becoming faithful wives of honest men and living in peace.
But his own views.
His underlying views, revealed in his letters and notes, were quite patronizing. He genuinely seemed to believe that these women had a kind of inherent volatile character that could only be fixed by removing them from London's temptations and channeling them into marriage.
Did the women actually know they were signing up to be shipped off to the colonies?
The plan was definitely framed as sending them abroad for a new beginning. How explicit the final destination and the expectation of marriage were made up front is debatable.
And how successful was it in their terms?
Dickens reported back to Coutts in 1853. He said that 30 out of 56 women who had passed through the home had been successfully sent to Australia or elsewhere.
Or elsewhere. That sounds a bit vague.
It is vague, and he noted 7 of them had married. But that vagueness, plus reports of some women relapsing even on the journey out, it suggests that once they left England, their actual fate was often completely unknown to Coutts and Dickens.
Right. Which raises huge questions about their agency, doesn't it?
Absolutely. What did this Reformation actually mean for the women themselves? Their Reformation was largely presented as self-reformation, but it happened under these incredibly strict repressive conditions. There was punishment for misbehavior.
Were there critics at the time?
Yes. Feminist activists like Anna Jameson were critical. They questioned whether these schemes were actually closer to a kind of sex trade or sex trafficking, shipping women off to potentially worse conditions overseas with very little support.
Did the newspapers pick up on this?
They did. The London Times ran reports about women arriving in the colonies and falling straight back into prostitution, sometimes in even more desperate circumstances.
And this all sort of culminated in that famous bride ship incident.
Yes. The voyage of the Timeless to British Columbia in 1862. It became highly publicized.
The one linked directly to Coutts.
Directly. Remember Bishop George Hill of British Columbia? His position was endowed by Coutts. He wrote back highlighting the urgent need for women there.
Okay.
So about 20 of the 30 or 40 women who sailed on the Tynemouth came directly from Urania Cottage.
And the press reaction.
The press, especially the London Times, had a field day debating the whole problematic subject scheme. One prominent essayist, William Rathbone Gregg, even argued that this kind of female emigration could basically eradicate prostitution in Britain.
How?
By creating scarcity. He thought it would make men in the colonies bid higher for wives, making marriage more attractive than prostitution back home. A very utilitarian view.
Wow. So how were these women actually received when the Tynemouth arrived in British Columbia?
Not well, by many accounts. Frederick Whymper, an artist and explorer who actually traveled on the ship, wrote about it quite cynically. He called the women living freight and commodities for the colonial and matrimonial market.
Ouch.
When they arrived in Victoria, the local press was immediately suspicious about where they'd come from. Whymper noted some girls were betrayed by their language, attitude, or character.
So they couldn't hide their pasts.
Apparently not easily. And single men, prospectors and settlers, traveled for days just to come and see the lassies arrive.
Must have been chaotic.
It created such intense sexual tension on the docks that police had to be hired to keep the men at bay. The women were actually kept in military barracks under close guard initially.
What happened to them then?
Eventually, they were placed as domestic servants. Whymper sort of tallied it up. He reckoned about half either married or found respectable service. But, he added, a large proportion quickly went to the bad, and from appearances had been there before.
So not the success story Dickens might have hoped for.
Far from it. Whymper called the whole scheme a naive experiment. He felt it essentially turned these girls into targets for sex trade, not for holy matrimony.
Such a stark contrast between the philanthropic intent and the often harsh reality for the women involved.
It really is. In this deeply uncomfortable reality, the criticism, the mixed results, it contributed to Urania Cottage eventually closing down.
And it also ended her friendship with Dickens.
Surprisingly, yes. That long collaboration came to an end. The sources suggest it was over Dickens's own dubious moral choices over matrimony, most likely his separation from his wife, Catherine.
Angela sided with Mrs. Dickens.
It seems so. She took Catherine's side, and that was effectively the end of her partnership with Charles on Urania Cottage, and it seems their friendship too.
Fascinating and quite sobering. Beyond these huge public projects, her private life had its own dramas and quirks, didn't it? You mentioned a stalker.
Yes, that's a really unsettling part of her story. For nearly 2 decades, she endured this persistent stalker.
2 decades?
Yes, a man named Richard Dunn. He got nicknamed the Irish Annoyance. He sent her constant harassing letters. He tracked her movements. He falsely claimed she owed him money.
Good grief. Was anything done about it?
There were court cases, penalties imposed on him, but he just kept going. It caused her immense distress. It really shows that even with all her wealth and status, she wasn't immune to that kind of violation and fear.
A chilling reminder. Okay, on a completely different note. Greyfriars Bobby, the little dog in Edinburgh. How does she fit into that famous story?
Yes. Her love for animals was absolutely legendary. She was a huge champion for animal welfare causes.
Like what?
Well, she campaigned against things like the overloading of horses pulling the trams in Edinburgh. She used her influence to push for better treatment.
And Greyfriars Bobby?
Her most famous gift to Scotland, arguably, was funding the statue and drinking fountain dedicated to Greyfriars Bobby in Edinburgh. You know the one.
The little Skye Terrier. Yeah.
It was a sort of private-public partnership to get it done. And in gratitude for that and her other work, Edinburgh made her the first woman ever to receive the freedom of the city in 1874.
The first woman freeman of Edinburgh. That's quite something. And doesn't the fountain still cause minor issues?
It does. Apparently, tourists constantly rub Bobby's nose for good luck. So much so that back in 2014, the city had to spend £400 giving him a nose job because it was getting worn away.
Huh. So even her well-intentioned gifts have these funny, unintended consequences centuries later.
Exactly. It just shows the ripples, doesn't it?
It makes you wonder, with all these diverse projects, Jerusalem surveys, rescue homes, dog statues, who was advising her, did she just follow her own instincts?
She definitely had strong instincts, but she also had this real knack for picking and listening to advisors. Remember Dickens's own advice to her about philanthropy.
Remind me.
He told her things like, try to interest the government, get official backing, research what's already being done, and crucially, help existing ones rather than establish new ones if you can't genuinely improve on them.
Sensible advice.
Very. Though Dickens himself could be critical of others, he famously called Lord Shaftesbury, another major philanthropist,
Yes.
an amiable bull in a china shop of good intentions.
Ouch. So she navigated this world of advice, sometimes contradictory advice, quite skillfully, it seems.
It appears so. Her ability to take advice, weigh it up, even if she didn't always follow it perfectly, seems key to how she managed such a wide range of projects.
And another slightly unusual interest for someone like her, Greek manuscripts.
Yes, that's another fascinating little side note.
Yeah.
Despite apparently not knowing Greek herself, she acquired a collection of about 100 Greek manuscripts, mostly theological texts, dating from the 10th right to the 16th century.
Where did she get them, and why?
The sources aren't entirely clear on the why, beyond perhaps a general Victorian interest in antiquity and religion. As for where, probably through dealers or agents, she donated some to Highgate School during her lifetime.
And the rest.
After her death, the rest were sold off at auction. They got dispersed, and now you can find Burdett-Coutts manuscripts in libraries across America and Europe.
Yeah.
Just speaks to her broad, maybe sometimes unconventional intellectual curiosity.
Her wealth also left behind more tangible things, beautiful objects.
Oh, definitely. For example, there's a record of a stunning set of 4 George V silver wine coolers, made around 1825, engraved with her family crest. They eventually passed to her husband after her death, little glimpses of the sheer luxury that surrounded her.
So as she got older, life changed, as it does. She lost many close friends, didn't she?
Yes, inevitably. Her former governess, Mrs. Hannah Brown, who she was very close to, and of course the Duke of Wellington, her longtime friend and advisor, those must have been significant losses.
And then came what Queen Victoria herself apparently called her mad marriage.
Ah, yes. That caused a huge sensation.
Yeah.
In 1881, when Angela was 66 years old,
66?
she married William Bartlett, who was only 29.
29. Quite the age gap.
A significant age gap. And crucially, he was half American.
Ah, the foreigner clause from the will.
Exactly. Marrying him openly contravened her step-grandmother's will. It caused an enormous public stir and triggered a really bitter inheritance dispute within the family.
What happened with the money?
Her sister, Clara, ended up taking control of 3/5 of the income from the Coutts Trust and secured the main line of inheritance to the bank. Angela was left with a life interest in the remaining 2/5.
So a big financial hit.
A very significant financial hit. Punch magazine, the satirical journal, had a famous quip about it. They wrote, "Money takes the name of Coutts. Superfluous and funny, for everyone considers Coutts synonymous with money." Basically saying the name was now more famous than the reduced fortune attached to her branch.
Despite the scandal, the age gap, the financial loss, was she happy in the marriage?
The sources generally suggest she was. By all accounts, it seemed a very happy marriage. And her husband, William Bartlett, who took name Burdett-Coutts, he actually continued much of her charitable work after she died. So he seems to have shared her commitments.
When did she pass away?
She died in 1906 at her home in central London. She was 92, having given away, it's estimated, more than £3 million in her lifetime.
£3 million in 19th and early 20th century money. That's just staggering.
And an absolutely staggering sum. It shows the scale of her giving, and her public impact was clear even in death. Her body lay in state.
Really?
Yes, and nearly 30,000 people filed past to pay their respect, just ordinary Londoners mostly.
30,000 people, wow. And her burial, even that had a touch of drama, didn't it? Westminster Abbey.
It did. She was offered burial in the Abbey itself, a huge honor. But there was a condition: cremation.
Which was still quite new and controversial then.
Very. Her husband initially agreed to it, but then, literally the day before the funeral was scheduled, he changed his mind and informed the Abbey authorities that cremation would not take place.
What did the Abbey do?
Well, the dean was actually out of town. The sub-dean decided to go ahead with the burial anyway, despite the broken agreement.
Just buried her.
Just buried her. Apparently, 2 clergymen protested by refusing to attend the service, but she was buried on January 5, 1907. A vast congregation attended. She rests near the west door in the nave. A final, slightly contentious public statement in a way.
So, when we look back at Angela Burdett-Coutts today after this deep dive, what's the lasting impression? What does it all mean?
I think she stands out as this truly unique figure, someone who really embodied both the immense power and, as we've seen, the inherent paradoxes of Victorian philanthropy.
Right, the good intentions and the more complicated realities.
Exactly. She used her enormous wealth to tackle genuinely pressing social issues: public health in Jerusalem, education in London, animal welfare, the situation of women. But her actions inevitably reflected the attitudes of her time.
Which could be?
Well, genuinely compassionate on one hand, but also quite patronizing, quite utilitarian, especially towards the poor and marginalized, and particularly towards women, as we saw with Urania Cottage.
She certainly lived a life of immense privilege, but it wasn't without its shadows, was it?
Yeah.
The stalker, the controversial marriage, the family disputes.
Not at all. It wasn't a simple fairy tale of riches. Her legacy, I think, is this powerful testament to the idea that individual action, especially when backed by massive resources, can have a profound impact.
But not always in the ways intended.
Precisely. Sometimes in ways she likely never foresaw, like Bobby's nose getting rubbed off. And it shows that even the most benevolent intentions can carry these really complex, sometimes uncomfortable, unforeseen consequences. She wasn't just a donor. She threw herself into the messy challenges of her era, trying to shape society according to her fortune and her deeply held beliefs.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. And it prompts us perhaps to ask a broader question when we look at philanthropy today.
Which is?
How much has truly changed? How do we navigate that delicate balance between a genuine desire to help and the inherent power dynamics, the potential blind spots that inevitably shape those efforts even now?
That's a really interesting question to leave us with. What stands out to you about Angela Burdett-Coutts after this deep dive? Until next time, keep digging for those nuggets of knowledge.